Hey, this is Daniel with I Value Repair and Screen Repair Business Academy, filming this out of my shop in my home. We are the #1 screen repair business shop in the Wabash Valley. And if you're interested, I can teach you how to run your own screen repair business in 8 weeks or less out of your home. It's a fantastic business. Shoot me a message if you need help with a repair or you're interested in starting your own business. We can help with both. Follow along. This is the not the iPhone. This is the Galaxy S22 screen replacement. We do these all the time. Okay, so first things first, in terms of popping this bad boy open, we need to get the back screen off. Now with the S22, they made the screen a little more flush with the phone, which the back glass a little more flush with the phone. So nevertheless, you need to hit it with a heat just like you would any other generation of Android phone. We enter in from the back. Make our attack from the back, Jack. Maybe that's not a good rhyme. I don't know. Let me put on gloves to deal with some of the heat situation. Let's heat this up a little bit more. We're going to take a chisel bladed knife, a chisel flat edge knife, a lot like this. We're going to stick it right under the edge of the intersection between the glass and the edge of the phone, like so. Just sneak it down in there. The sharper the knife, the better. I may have to replace this with a sharper blade. We'll just kind of find that intersection point between the glass on the back of this and the metal frame. Yeah, that is being a little bit tricky because of how they changed the design of the S22 a little bit to make this a little bit of a flatter design on the sides and on the edges. And on one hand, that increases the strength and break resistance. On the other hand, it can make it a little bit more complicated to get in. Nevertheless, we're in like Flynn. I'm going to stick my knife in just barely and pause this video. All right, we are back to recording live. And while I was on the call, while the video was paused, I was able to stick a plastic card under the edge of this. Now, you want to be really careful. I think this back actually might be plastic, but if you remove the back glass on any Android phones, especially on a lot of Samsung phones, most of them are glass. They've switched to doing plastic on a few of these. That makes them a little more durable and easier to replace. But you always have to watch out for the reality that plastic and glass, because of the paint they put on these, can feel just about the same. So you want to be really careful. I use alcohol on the back. I use Everclear alcohol actually in needles that I inject underneath the skin of the phone, and we'll work our way around. Now as we're pushing the plastic through here, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I don't get in the, I'm gonna make sure I don't get underneath. There's a wireless charging pad under here that allows you to charge your phone wirelessly. And you wanna make sure you don't push a plastic piece between the pad and the phone, and you can damage the pad. But I think we're on the safe side. Those pads usually stay pretty close to the phone. So we're popping off the back of this, working our way all the way up, and Bob's your uncle. We are in like Flynn. Let's zoom in a little bit here. This is what the phone looks like. We're going to throw on a good size Phillips screwdriver head and zip these screws out. The wonderful thing about Samsung, that's a tri-point screwdriver head. That was a rookie move. That's a Phillips screwdriver head. Okay, back to what I was saying earlier. The nice thing about Samsung phones is this initial layer of screws that you get into. The screws are pretty identical all the way through. You don't have to keep them too organized because you can just put them anywhere because they're the same screws. Work through here, unscrew all these screws, and because they're substantial, larger screws than a lot of iPhones and other phones, that's one of the reasons they use an electric screwdriver, because there are just so many of the same screws that are fairly big that we're just ripping out one at a time. Because the first priority when getting into any phone, and that's what we're pursuing right now, is making sure we get the power disconnected, because power is one of the things that can cause a lot of damage on these phones. Is if your battery is still connected, you can cause a short and whatnot. Now, there's a bunch of screws down here. We're not going to take those out right now. Having trouble grabbing that screw. Grab a trusty screwdriver. Okay, so now we're going to disconnect this. There's a connection right here. We're going to disconnect. Let me zoom this in a little bit for you. Okay. Just a second. Oh, I don't know, that didn't do much. Let me drag this down here. We're going to zoom this even further in to give you a bit of a better view of what we're doing. It doesn't help much, but a little bit helps. Okay, there's a connection right here. We're going to disconnect this connection. We're going to pop off this whole metal bracket that's in the middle here. And peel back the wireless charging pad. Okay, first things first, we're disconnecting the battery. Now we need to know, what do we need to do to replace the screen? The way they answer that question is by looking at the screen that you got. You can either buy a screen that comes pre-installed on the frame, or you can buy a screen that comes, well, just by itself. And this is a screen that we ended up buying just by itself. It's just a skinny, thin screen part. If you buy a screen that's pre-installed on a frame, you have to transfer the battery and all the components over to it. But if you buy a screen just like this, all you have to do is change the screen out. Now, the one thing you need to pay attention to on this screen is the fact that there's no plugs on the top, the only plugs are on the bottom. This is a testing cable, and it's not that important. The rest of it is under here. Another thing that you'll run into, and let me zoom into a little bit. Another thing you'll run into is a lot of times they have a plastic piece like this. This is to protect the screen, and you can just remove it fairly simply. It feels like it's pretty tough on there. It's not a permanent piece. You just need to kind of, well, defeat the adhesive that's holding it in place because it's not meant to stay. Well, that's not coming loose. Probably hit that with a little heat or something like that. Let's get that off. Honestly, this is straightforward enough. I could just, I probably should just do this. See, got a plastic protector right here. We're gonna move that and it comes off just like that. This is pretty straightforward. This is a testing cable, and I have a high enough confidence in my ability as a repair tech and also in the fact that this is probably going to work that I'm not going to actually run tests on this. So I'm going to pop this off because I've not had a lot of these repairs go wrong. So now that we've taken all that off, you can see that this is the connector that connects into the phone. There's no other connectors on the screen. So the only connector to the phone is right here. Putting beside the phone, that means you need to remove these screws to get into to make that connection. You had to remove the top to disconnect the battery. Now we're going to remove the bottom so that we can actually plug the screen in. Set the screen aside, tear out these screws. All right, let's pop this open again. Now, a lot of these bottom plastic loudspeaker cover on the Samsung phones are held in by screws, but then also you have to kind of pop them out. So grab your fingernail under them, pull, you can pop it out. If you can't get it with just your fingernail and a pull, you can also use the Slim Jim tool to kind of pry under it and get it out. Nevertheless, right here we can see our connection to right here we can see the connection to the screen. Pop that loose, and just for good measure, we're gonna pop this up as well. Oh, got someone come here to drop off a phone. I'll be back. All right. Man, a guy tries to shoot one video and people are coming in nonstop to get their phones fixed. I get phones out of my pockets and all sorts of stuff. Here's the deal. We love helping people here at iValue Repair, and I love getting to run a repair shop out of my home. If you need a repair done, I am here to help you, and I've got guys working for me that love to help you. If you want to do what I've done and learn to run your own repair shop, I can teach you exactly how to do that. Anyhow, that all being said, let's get back to this phone. We've got the bottom of this phone off. I'm going to back it out a little bit to go into dual mode. I'm going to show you how we remove the front screen of these phones. Let's rock and roll. This front screen is not too badly broken, but again, the phone has this squared off sides on it. So the nice thing is the screen kind of sits down into the phone screen. So that means we have to do a little bit of digging to get the screen out, but otherwise it's a really good situation. I'm going to remove the old knife off my chisel to make sure I have a sharper knife so I can get under the edge of the screen effectively. All right. Now I'm using a chisel blade to dig down vertically between the edge of the phone frame and the glass. And I'm trying to sneak under there and begin our disconnection. Okay, I'm under. So again, I'm going to inject it with a little bit of alcohol. We use Everclear alcohol. Now, one of the tips that you can use when you're doing this part of removing the screen is you can take the new screen you're putting on, take a look at the different layers on it, and by looking at the layers on the screen, you can tell how far down you need to go. Now, on most of the phones, these are pretty strong. There's a pretty firm surface down there you get down to. You're not going to dig into the motherboard or something like that. There's a barrier between you and the motherboard, so don't worry about that. What you're just concerned about is saying, hey, how far do I need to go to get this screen out? The nice thing about the S22 is you don't have a lot of cables or anything you're watching out for. All we're doing is removing this from its adhesive and getting it cleaned out. Okay, so I'm looking under there and I've got the glass up, and as you can see the OLED screen layer under there as well. So we are good to go. So we're gonna sneak this around, hit it with alcohol. So we keep everything as nice and loose. The one place alcohol solves more problems than it creates is phone repair. Gonna heat it up again. And moving this all around. It's got a lot of alcohol in here, which is defeating the adhesive, but boom, we have carefully taken the screen off. Now, what I like to do on this is I like to repurpose at least some of the alcohol that was on there already. I don't like to remove all of it. My goal is to actually be able to save some of the alcohol that we have on here. Let's move this back into the field of view. Repurpose some of the adhesive. That's the word, not alcohol. Yeesh. Let me get a special knife. All right. We're going to, a lot of this adhesive can be repurposed. Like all the way down here, most of this adhesive is good. Up here by the camera, 2 pieces have come loose and have actually lost their adhesive nature or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to cut those out real quick. Still have a fair amount of adhesive nature, but I tried to work with a very sharp blade when doing repairs on phones, because when you're working in small spaces, you want to be as precise as possible. So I actually buy blades that are designed for surgical use, because that is the kind of precision that I'm looking to provide to my customers when doing phone repair. Even something as simple as, hey, we're replacing your screen. We're replacing the adhesive on your screen. Anyhow, all right. This is also part of the screen. We'll take that out. Okay, so now we need to rebuild and replace some of the adhesive. Let's get cracking. Number one adhesive I recommend to anyone is Tessa tape from iFixit. No other suppliers come close to providing the quality of tape that you can get from iFixit and their Tessa tape. Let me zoom back in. Okay. So we're gonna patch these spots with fresh adhesive. And yeah, I'm not doing fresh adhesive over everything because honestly I don't think you have to. The original adhesive they use, if you're careful, is perfectly good. Okay, this is taking a little bit longer than I thought it would, but such is phone repair sometime. All right, so now that we've got the adhesive reconstituted, we're going to remove the cover on this Tessa tape. Have that done, we're going to pull in our new screen, make sure there's no plastic still over any of the lenses. I think we're good. And we'll push this screen in. The wonderful thing about the S22 is the screen just sits down into the phone and makes it a lot really easy to seat. Okay, I'm going to plug the screen in. Going to pop the wireless charging pad back down. We'll plug this phone in. Plug the battery in, rather. That's good, that's good, that's good. Plug the wireless charging pad in. We start off by running a few screws, because first and foremost, we're looking to make sure the screen and everything works. So the best way we can do that, I'm going to remagnetize my screwdriver real quick. The best way we can make sure everything works is by running some screws. The best way we can make sure everything works is partially assemble the device and then plug it in or punch the power. But one of the advantages of plugging it in is you never know, is because we plug it in because you never know how long this phone has been sitting unused. By plugging it in, we're able to see if it's going to power on. We already have life. It's not all the way on, but that is good enough for me. I'm gonna get the rest of this reassembled, and before we pop the back on, we'll make sure it powers all the way on. Yep, wasting tape. And we got our last one. Where does this screw go? Found it. All right. Screen's working just fine. I'm going to repurpose the old adhesive that's in just perfect shape. And that is a Galaxy S22 screen replacement. Anyhow, this is Daniel with iValue Repair and Screen Repair Business Academy. If you need your phone fixed, we can help you out. If you want to learn how to do just what I did there and make a good living for your family, hit me up and shoot me a message, whether it's on the business channel or the Academy channel or my personal channel. I'd be honored to help you out. Have a wonderful day.